The SharePickers Podcast.
And joining me on the podcast and on video, it's John Meyer, mining analyst and a partner, SB Angel. Howdy, partner.
Hi,
John, right?
Howdy, Justin.
Yeah, let's go straight to the chart of tin. You don't hear that said very often. But there we are, look at that. Look at that shooting up there. What's going on, John? What's going on with tin? What's the score?
There are a few issues to do with other tin mines in the world, mainly in Myanmar. We also know the Indonesian government's been messing around a bit with...
you said that. I'm always messing around with tin and they're messing around with the Indian government. In Indonesia, I mean, stop messing around. Stop your messing around with tin.
Well, they do, actually. They banned the export of tin in January at one stage. They then sort of reissued permits. And, of course, the market's saying, well, what's going on here? But
Indonesia, so how big a tin producer are they?
They are big. They're I'm not sure they're as big as Myanmar, but they've always been. In fact, they were much bigger. They dominated the market for many, many years. They are significantly smaller than they were, and their tin industry is in decline. But of course, It's
like a tin pot industry now.
Well, indeed. So there's a lot of tin that comes out of Myanmar, but there are problems in the Wa state of Myanmar. Where the rebels are, shall we say, kicking back against the junta, the government of Myanmar, and the Thai army are busy on the border with Thailand, and the Chinese army are busy on the border with China. And I think there's going to be a bit of an operation over there, and it's going to interrupt more tin exports because they've been smuggling tin concentrates over the border of Myanmar into China for many years now. And I think it's not so easy to smuggle stuff right now.
Tin producers. Let's have a look in the world. Biggest tin producers in the world. China is easy.
China produces its own, but they bring in a lot of concentrate exports from Myanmar, which are smuggled over the border. So it's difficult to know exactly whose statistics they show up in. I think that those concentrates show up in the Chinese industry. But a lot of it does come out of Myanmar.
Yeah, okay. Leading tin countries in the world. No, so I accept all this. China tops list. Indonesia. So they're saying China produces 125,000 metric tons a year. Indonesia produces 84,000. That's a lot, considering how such small it is in China. Peru, Bolivia, Brazil, and Myanmar. But Myanmar's they got their 11,000 metric tons. But there we are, tin. Who knows it? And so you Cornish Metals, they're in tin, aren't they?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, they're working up a preliminary feasibility study on the South Crofty project.
Oh, it's bounced back at us, John, isn't it? After all those rumours, after you quashed the rumours of dead cows and sheep in the mine. And any more news on that? Any sheep or cows being found this week or not?
No, I've just met with the management. They haven't seen any dead sheep or cows anywhere near the mine.
Oh.
There's also somebody spreading rumours saying that all these tin mines connect together and therefore water is draining from one into another. It doesn't appear to be the case. We can't absolutely say it's not true, but it doesn't appear. There's no evidence to suggest that the South Crofty tin mine is connected to the other tin mines. And the water levels are holding where they are. Management are not reducing the water level at the moment because they just simply don't need to. They're doing a lot of work underground at the moment, getting ready for the next phase of things, as in drilling the resource out so that they've got a better defined resource for financing purposes, and to know exactly what they're going to do when they start mining this thing again. And when they're ready, they'll take the rest of the water out of the mine. So they just don't need to do it right now. No problem with it. They've got lots of spares for all the pumps. They've got extra pumps lying around ready for the next phase. Lots of capacity in the water treatment plant. So, it was whoever was selling it. We don't know why they were selling it, but clearly overdone.
Yeah, so who is this idiot just spreading rumours about water in there and dead sheep and cows? What's the point of that? Because you can't short a stock. Can you this size? I don't think. Can you do that? I don't think you can. Can you? So why is it just someone who's
Justin? People can do all sorts of things, even with small companies these days. If there's even a little bit of liquidity, you can trade CFDs. There's so much trading that goes on in London that is unseen. I was talking to a guy from one of the quant desks at a major bank last night. And it's incredible the amount of trading that is not reflected, I think, in the volume figures at the LSE that goes on. People do so many different things with so many stocks.
Oh, that will fuel the conspiracy theorists. Because I mean, Thomas, what we're doing here is giving this I don't know, this person who's a troll or whatever it is, we're giving them some airtime, and you shouldn't do that with trolls. But they're literally going to spread more rumours now because we're talking about them. But that thing you're saying there is all kind of dark pools, whatever, and that you trade through that people don't know about. That will, because you often get when someone invests. I'm not talking about Cornish metals here, but when someone invests in a stock and they haven't done due diligence and research, and it goes down. I've often seen people say, "Well, that's the market makers messing around with it." Well, hang on a sec. You may have made a bad investment, because you find market makers don't mess around with stocks going up. Pretty much, it's always the ones they're losing money on. It's market makers messing around with it. I mean, I don't think market makers have time to mess around with microcap stocks. They're busy with other stuff. They haven't got time for that.
Yeah, you're right. But I mean, if they're getting a lot of sell orders in something, they'll
have to push price down, yeah.
Well, I mean, to be honest, what they often do is absorb that stock and then look for other ways either to offset the risk or people to buy it. So market makers are an important part of the market. They are, they oil the wheel.
They make the market, yeah. But do you know what I have seen quite a few times, actually? On bad days, and I think this is a little bit of manipulation. I don't know if it's true or not. I will see shares very not traded, hardly, microcaps, very little volume, and they're being pushed down on a bad day, like 4 or 5% something. And then it'll close the day out and they'll go flat again. I think, well, hang on, you've been holding the price down on that. So maybe I'm part of the conspiracy theory there. But I mean, I do see that and I become a bit cynical, thinking, hang on a sec, there's no volume. You're just moving that price down to get people to sell or something. And then at the end of the trade, this Paul 30 comes around and it goes back to zero and it's flat. And you're thinking, there's no trade gone through. How's it moved back up? How did it move down in the first place? And why does it move back up? So there's a little bit of that, I think. They do, you see on bad days, I think it's a way of making, well, that's how they make money, the spread, isn't it? They widen the spreads out and all that stuff. That's how they make money. So I suppose it can be done. Maybe, I'm sure there's rules against that, but it's just a market, isn't it? That's the way it works. Who knows? Anyway, okay. Any other stocks, John? Let's talk about, so tin we covered. Let's cover, gold is the story of the day. Look at that. Literally, it's up 15% from that breakout period back here, the 2080, 2090. It's now at it's just hovering around 23.93. That's shooting up, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gone way beyond anyone would have expected. It's being driven out of China. It's being driven by the Shanghai Futures Exchange or activity on that exchange. We looked at the volumes this morning. The volumes have gone from 200, 300,000 lots. We think that's what that is anyway, up to 1.2 million, about nearly 1.2 million. This seems to be where it's all happening. I also think, I did read that Chinese investors who are pretty disillusioned with Chinese banks, state banks, commercial banks,
property.
They can't really invest in property anymore because they used to. I think they used to buy a lot of flats and things like that off plan. The government.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Chinese do. I mean, literally, there's when the stock market started going, there was a worry that people wouldn't take their money out of property because property's always done quite well in China. But now that is not. There's a huge debt bubble in China, and like I said, there's all these zombie sort of states gone up, and so they are disillusioned with property now. So they're probably looking and think, gold. That's they don't trust the stock market. Maybe gold. So that's where it's going. Maybe.
Well, the government's told them that property is for living in and not for speculation. And you're a brave man in China if you go against what the government's told you not to do. And yes, of course, the property market's going down. You've got Evergrande being described as the largest fraud ever in history with $80 billion worth of revenues that perhaps shouldn't have been booked. That company is now in receivership. They've just put another property company into receivership as well. So the Chinese government has got serious. They said, right, if you guys don't pay your bills, particularly if you don't repay any of the debt you owe to Chinese state companies, we will put you into liquidation immediately. So it's got very serious. It's got very nasty. And so nobody wants to invest in Chinese property right now. So in a situation where you don't trust any of the financial companies, because they've also had other scandals out there, where do you put your money? And I think gold is a good default.
Yeah, and in fact, I would say crypto, but crypto's not doing very well. I've seen even Bitcoin is coming off a little bit. Literally, I did look at a chart of that recently. I was saying if you look at Bitcoin, and not that one. If you look at Bitcoin, right, and whenever it's crossed, let's get rid of that one. Sorry, whenever it's crossed the 50-day moving average and dropped 7%, it's done that twice in the last few years. And look at the time it's done that. Literally 47% a drop, 38% drop. The last time it's gone 7%. In the next 70 days, that is. In the next 70 days, so I looked at that, it's very odd numbers. So if it drops 7% below the 50-day moving average, in the next 70 days, it's dropped previously, after a high it's dropped 48% and 38%. And it's done that now. And you're thinking, okay, so what's happening there? So maybe they're not even trusting crypto. They're going with gold. Yeah, the old-fashioned gold. So, have you got any gold stocks, John?
Not in my own portfolio, but there's a few that we look after. Although I bought some Kavango the other week, so I guess that's a gold stock. They're looking to produce gold in Zimbabwe sometime soon.
Are they? How far off are they from doing that? I thought they were just Explorer.
That's a good question. Actually, because they're going to produce gold from a tailings project, so those things are normally quite quick. But perhaps it'll be this year, perhaps it'll be next year. I don't quite know.
Well, I see. Yeah, we did look at that chart. Was it last week? And it's broken up above that, previous support there, then resistance. Now it's back above that. So at least we see maybe the lower's gone there. The lower's been had. Maybe it'll move sideways, hopefully, but that's good. You were talking about Blue Jay mining there. What are Blue Jay up to these days? I mean, when I first... who's there now? Who's the management of Blue Jay?
Yeah, Rod McGilry's back in.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was there before, wasn't he? Didn't he go away and then come back to something else? What did he do?
Yeah, he went away. He has a couple of other business interests. One of those interests is with a company called Flame Energy, which used to be called Greenland Oil and Gas. Remember that Rod McGilry spent a lot of time in Greenland over the years. He's well known. He knows the geology well. He's been involved in a number of different things in Greenland over the years. The government know him. I think they have good relations there. And actually, the opportunity in Greenland is tremendous. I think the government very keen to do something other than fishing to support the economy. Well, that's amusing to us, but it's pretty serious for them.
No. They're just sitting on the table there, scratching their heads. What else can we do apart from fishing? We can do something else we can do, surely. Got all these minerals here.
I think that's exactly the conversation they have, yes. And Rod has advanced a number of projects in Greenland, in fact, very successfully over the years. They reinstated the resource at Dundas. It's very interesting because it's not something you see very often. They put a couple of other people in charge. There was a Danish guy who was in charge, and he ran another drill program that was a complete mess up as far as from what I can see. And they, the findings of that drill program they looked extremely inaccurate. And so Rod has taken the unusual step to reinstate the former JORC resource on the Dundas project. I think that's the right step because I think the work was done properly in the first place. I actually think the deposit is much larger and slightly higher grade than is published. That's because I've had the benefit of going out there and looking at it.
Yeah, look at that. Since 2018, it's lost 98% of its value. That's a bit of a travesty, that, isn't it?
So this is what happens when people lose confidence in a project. Go back to 2018, everybody was excited that Rio Tinto were testing the product from the Dundas project. They had 42,000 tons of material which had been shipped. It was very easy to ship that material over to Canada. And then Rio Tinto decided not to do it. They had an issue with the unions in Canada. They settled with the unions. And as part of that settlement, I believe they decided not to go ahead with shall we say, acquiring ilmenite concentrates from Greenland. Now, it doesn't mean that the deposit doesn't have value, because there are other companies in the States and in China, I think, who would be very keen to buy this concentrate material. And there is an offtake agreement with a Japanese trading house to buy that. Now, at the moment, I think that project's going to go slow. The company doesn't have the money to really advance the project rapidly. But in the meantime, management is saying, well, we've got a few other things that we can do, and probably do them quite cheaply. And the market appears to be pretty hot for helium and other industrial gases. So the change in strategy.
So where are they going? Where are they getting that from, though? That's not from Greenland, is it? Or
well, we don't know yet. They haven't told us. But what I'm saying is, Rod McGilvray has been involved with oil and gas projects in Greenland. It's a place he knows, and it's a situation he knows well. So it wouldn't surprise me if the board was to look at perhaps acquiring some, either directly from the government, acquiring some oil and gas type projects. I think more on the helium and industrial gases side of things, or maybe they'll do something. Perhaps they'll go for some M&A. We simply don't know yet.
Okay. Yeah, the company is in the process of rationalising its current Finland portfolio for further cost savings and expects to be able to update the market soon. So what's happening to Disco? You can't get rid of Disco, surely. You can't just leave the Disco.
No, well, the Disco project, they're waiting to see whether Cobalt Metals come back and start drilling that. Cobalt are claiming to have a huge discovery in Zambia, so I think they are largely distracted by that. To be honest, that what they claim to be a discovery is, shall we say, well, it was already there. Let's just put it that way. But they're having a good time drilling out a lot of copper in Zambia, and as we know, and I've talked many times about how bullish I am on Zambian copper. In fact, I was buying shares in a Canadian company called BE Metals earlier this week, because I think they have a very good discovery potential. They drilled some holes into something recently, and it says to me that there's a better than even chance of a find here. But look, these things are always slightly speculative. We never know if anything's an economic discovery till the numbers are done. But shall we say we've got it right once or twice in the past?
Yeah, hopefully. Hey, listen, and so you mentioned before we came on, you were talking about copper. And you're saying the price of the price of what has gone negative? You said.
Oh, the cost of buying treatment and cost of buying copper concentrates has gone negative. So it's the treatment and refining charges that are paid by the smelters, as for the first time in my experience, gone negative. And it's not quite that the smelters are paying you to take the concentrates, because actually the smelter will pay you for perhaps 95% of the copper in that concentrate. But it's pretty rare for that. It's unprecedented in my experience. And it says to me that there is a shortage of copper concentrate. And if there's a shortage of copper concentrate, that says to me there's quite likely to be a shortage of copper metal going forwards. Now, I spoke to somebody this morning who said, well, you've got to remember there's quite a lot of copper metal in warehouses at the moment. But we know that there are problems in the DRC. Well, we believe there are problems in the DRC, in the Congo, with some of the mines. There's a number of trucks we believe were stopped in Botswana because they were not only were they carrying copper concentrates, but uranium. So I've got the feeling that the CIA might have been involved in that. People don't like uranium moving around the world unless it's all being properly documented. We know that
the lorries were glowing, were they? And the drivers are glowing.
Hopefully not. Well, actually, uranium out of the Congo can be very high grade and very dangerous. So it is something to be careful about. Also, with Cobre Panama, in the huge copper mine in Panama has been shut down for quite a while now. So that's restricted the market. So yeah, we think 1, 2, maybe even 3 copper smelters in China might have to shut down because they just can't get the material to operate. So it's an interesting market, and we reckon there's going to be a deficit in this market going forwards. And as a result, many of the more speculative funds have gone long on copper.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. It's so many moving parts to try and work out how much copper is out there. So how do you know how much is in warehouses, for example?
Well, what you can see is the published numbers on the LME, the Shanghai, and COMEX. What you can't see is the unofficial warehouses where funds will often store copper, and it's more cheaply stored. Also, you get companies that will, shall we say, maybe buy a bit of extra copper and stick it in inventory. And sometimes they have a group of guys who might trade around the market there. But in general, inventory levels are shorter than is where they used to be historically. And the market doesn't have an awful lot of spare metal to play with in our view. And at the same time, remember that every electric vehicle uses about twice the amount of copper of an internal combustion engine vehicle. And that means the more electric vehicles produced by China, the more copper they have to use. So I think this is leading a bit of a fight amongst the Chinese smelters to get hold of supplies.
Yeah. I mean, look at copper from 2020, the Dash for Cash crash in March. Was it 438? What's that? This is in kilograms, yeah? And
that's cents per pound.
Okay, a pound, yeah. And I got 4.4. So it was a pound wise, it was down to 2, and then it's literally more than double that now, double and a half since the Dash for Cash crash, which is madness. It's definitely it's a bit volatile, isn't it? Shoots up like that, consolidates, drops. And why did it drop down there in when was this? June? Why was that? There was nothing to do with China from June 2nd, 2022. Just dropped off cliff. It went back from 4.5 to 3, and now it's picking back up again. What was that? Why did that happen there? What happened in that period?
I think much of this is down to the property crisis in China, general slowdown in the global economy. That people getting worried, and there was just a bit extra copper around at that time. So maybe the Chinese State Reserve Bureau was probably selling into it. There's all sorts of groups that play around with the price. So sometimes you just have to stand back and let it happen.
Yeah, all these people playing around with metals. What's wrong with them? Marvelous stuff. Anything else, Johnny? Anything else on the global scene worth talking about? Anything worth mentioning?
I think we covered it, to be honest.
Oh yes, we covered all.
But I think there is. I think there is a general recovery in the small cap mining sector. Mm-hmm. We're seeing a number of these stocks starting to pick up. Cornish Metals was clearly a strong move. You tend to see these strong moves when there is a little bit of a following market. So it just feels that generally the bad, it feels like all the bad news is out there and people are starting to come back into the market and buy these things again. Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast today, I think it's from Bloomberg, saying that the market, is record outflows. 34 months there's been of outflows from funds and everything in the market. And so, of course, that knocks everything. It's a double hit, isn't it? You get private investors, of course, selling stocks in funds. The funds have to sell stocks then, pretty much. But I was reading, who is it? I was reading someone. No, it was Premier Mighton, actually. I mentioned last week. Premier Mighton, that they're saying now the outflow's down to a trickle. So all you need to see is a bit of a rally. Like I said, that's the AIM All-Share Index, down 49% for the last 7 or 8 days. It's been a brutal bull market, a bear market, absolutely brutal. Like I said, over 600 companies in that. So that's including the good performers as well. So, but you see here, we are now off the bottom, and it's rallied nicely, from October to, the start of this year. And so when you have a rally like that, you need consolidation, but it's doing that. It's now in a range. It's not revisiting the lows. It's in a range. So it's looking quite good, I think. It's above a 200 moving average, which is it's not done that for a long time. I get rid of this arrow. But it tried to get above it there, but this time, and then dipped straight back to low. But now it's above it. It's above it. It's above it. So we are forming a nice range, a base from which to make a further move from, I think. And that move should be higher, I reckon. Yes. So I'm looking on the bright side, John. Are you?
Yeah, generally we are seeing these things lift off the bottom. I mean, the mining sector was suppressed for longer, but then that's the way it seems to go. It gets hit quite hard, and it takes a little while for it to pick itself up and recover again. And yeah, the problem is when you get a loss of confidence in the market, it is difficult to turn it round. It takes a bit of news flow. It takes
Takes a rally because like I said, it's like a tsunami. When it's self-fueling, isn't it? Sell-offs, they fuel themselves. Which is like people redeem and sell off. The fund managers have to sell everything, and basically it's sucking all liquidity out. Now, when you get a rally, when you get exhaustion. Maybe you need a suggestion of interest rates coming down. Maybe that'll be the ultimate catalyst. But then once the market starts kind of rallying, so a lot of private investors, like I said, invest in the rearview mirror. It'll rally for like 3, 4, 5, 6 months before most private investors will have the confidence to put it back in, and that'll be the next leg up, pretty much. It's already done a rally from the bottom. The next leg up, then they'll talk to other people. Put money in the stock market, and you've already done then. So maybe 20% off the lows in the index before actual private investors start getting involved again. So I mean, the clever money, the fast money, the good money's in now, already in. I think ready for the not fully exposed, but partially exposed, realizing the bottom is in, the bottom's gone, and that's where you can make good money from, like I said, the end of 2023 to 2024. That was a cracking rally in AIM, and now it's just consolidating for a bit. So it's gone up, like I said, already the AIM indices has gone up by 14% in that rally. So that was a good move. And now we're just waiting for the second wave of investors to come back in. That's what we need. And that'll fuel it.
We're all momentum traders at heart, whether we like it or not. The thing is to be brave enough to catch these stocks while they're at a low level, when they're very unloved. Nobody wants to know them anymore. But what you need to know is you need to have enough knowledge of the underlying stock to know that it can create value.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would always advise, if you are confident that management can create value, it's the management you should follow. It's always good if there's a good project within that company, but at the end of the day, it's the management that really make the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Well, John, not the company, any company this can be. I'm looking for a pure play, maybe not different, jumping around looking at different resources, but a pure play company. MicroCap, small cap, copper company. Then listed in the UK. What would you say? They don't have to be, not one of your companies that you look after, but what's one you looked at that's a good project?
Well, the Atalaya company, which runs the old Rio Tinto mine in Spain, great management. We love the chief executive there. It's good team. Always seem to do a good job. No complaints. Very solid bunch of people. Also, another good management team, Anglo-Asian Mining. Okay, they're waiting for the government of Azerbaijan to give them to renew their tailings permit. We're hopeful that we'll get news on that quite soon, because we're hopeful. We don't actually know. It's quite hard to predict what the government of Azerbaijan is going to do, but we do think
Atalaya's done well, isn't it? Look at that. Atalaya is going from 122 to 425. That's from 2016. But even the last year, it's been doing well from September, or even 2024. It's rallied nicely. AAZ. Okay, and what about Lithium?
Well, Lithium, we're big fans of Atlantic Lithium with the project in Ghana. That's been at very low levels. That was kind of depressed by the situation with Piedmont. Piedmont's just got their permits for Carolina for their smelter there. So I think.
Well, why does she need a permit? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
What's wrong with her? Okay.
Anyway, that is permitted, and at some stage, I would expect Atlantic Lithium to do better. Management have been shoveling money in time and time again. There's lots of reports of management putting their own cash into the stock. It's always good to see. Yeah. The government of Ghana is extremely supportive. The Ghanaian Sovereign Wealth Fund has put money in a few months back. I think everything to play for here.
Yeah, no. When you say expected to do better, you mean the share price. The management are doing all they can, I suppose, even putting money into it, like you say. But
Exactly.
yeah, no. I mean, look at I'm quite liking this though. It's forming a base. Like if you look at this, even when that Piedmont thing came out, that short report, which is full of nonsense, came out, it dipped down to this level. Have you seen? It pretty much spiked down to this level, and then it's bounced back up. Then it's dipped down a couple of times now. It's retested this, and now you've got this nice little base forming at around about 18 pence. So I think some, positive news catalyst. What's the lithium price doing at the moment? Is that going anywhere? I don't know.
Well, it's a good point, because I talked to a lithium specialist in China on a fairly regular basis, and lithium prices are definitely picking up. In fact, I'm told that lithium carbonate demand in China is picking up, particularly from BYD. BYD produce I think they've now overtaken Tesla as the world's largest electric vehicle manufacturer, or maybe I don't know if that's by manufacturing numbers or by sales, but they are very, very big, and they are shipping in lithium carbonate for their batteries. So that's good news.
Lithium carbonate. Oh, okay. Well, it shouldn't be moving anywhere. But that's the key, isn't it? When they start sort of
Atlantic Lithium will produce spodumene, lithium in spodumene concentrate. Okay. But of course, when you make car batteries, you either use lithium carbonate as a sort of refined product, or lithium hydroxide. It depends on the type of battery you're going to produce, whether you're producing an LFP, which, to be honest, BYD have been using. They've been making a lot of lithium LFP batteries which generally use lithium hydroxide. So it may be that it sounds like BYD are going to use more NCM, nickel, cobalt, manganese batteries, because they tend to use more lithium carbonate in that. But I'm starting to talk a bit beyond my pay grade.
Yeah. What I've done there is put an alert on lithium price. If it gets, I don't know what the price. This is lithium futures on the COMEX there, but once it gets from 16, I think it's good to go. So it's spiked up to close to that 15.5 a couple of times, but it's above a 50-day moving average now. So it is forming a bit of a bottom. May take a little bit longer, but once that starts to go, I think, of course, Atlantic Lithium will go with it. So I'll be alerted. I'm on that, John. So leave it with me.
Good,
okay.
good. Well,
I can replace your Chinese person or the person in China on the phones all day talking about lithium. Yeah. So what's I they talk about lithium all day on the phones. How much mileage is in that?
Well, there are people who are specifically employed to ring round the guys who are buying and the guys who are selling lithium and try and figure out what the prices are, and that's the price discovery mechanism.
Yeah.
And these,
that person there, we great dinner party where there's a lithium bore at the table who knows nothing really, and you get that person next to him. No, hang on, get this person talks about lithium all day, so they'll show you up. Yeah, sorry, go on. Look at the price of lithium. Look at that. It went from I don't know what the metrics are on this, but in 2021 they started recording this price. It was where it is now, and then it went to 13 something. It went to 83 by May 22. Did a double top then by December 22, and it's come all the way back down very sharply. That kind of thing happens again when you get that big hype in a commodity price, and it can go up like that again. It's very aggressive. I think it'll rally strongly. Do you again soon?
Well, we are expecting the prices to pick up. Whether we see that kind of rally again is another matter. But yeah, certainly we know there's a lot of demand coming through. We know there's big increases in demand from people like, the guys who make the batteries for BYD. I think that's CATL who do that. We know that the battery chemistry is developing, but it's the lithium-ion batteries that are still very dominant, and I'm sure they're going to be dominant for another 10, 20, or maybe even 50 years, because lithium is such a light metal. It's so extraordinarily light. It's very hard for anything else to replace it, because everything else is heavier. I mean, there are other metals that can do perhaps a better job than lithium, but they're all so heavy. So why would you want to change that?
Yeah, why change? Marvelous stuff. Cheers, John. Speak to you next weeky.
Thank you, Justin.
The SharePickers Podcast with Justin Waite. The content of this podcast is not intended as investment advice. It is for information purposes only. People in this podcast may hold positions in the stocks they talk about. Do not buy anything based solely on a tip or recommendation. Please do your own research.